Hello, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and I want to thank all of our keynote speakers, expert moderators, panelists, and solutions sponsors for participating in this year's Insight Jam Live. This has been a big year with the launch of the InsightJam.com community site and the amazing growth of the Insight Jam YouTube channel, which now has over 500,000 subscribers. Much of this success is tied directly to the video events, podcasts, and panel discussions we have been producing, and none of that would be possible without the thoughtful participation of the many IT professionals who are generously sharing their expert insights for this latest jam. We are building Insight Jam to be a place to celebrate enterprise technology with best practices, expert analysis, and solution showcases. And we want all of you to join us there to keep the jam going into the new year and beyond. If you haven't joined Insight Jam, please do. And if you already have, take a moment to invite some of your colleagues. And again, thank you all for being here and enjoy this event.
Solutions Review presents the Insight Jam Expert Keynote.
All right, so welcome everybody to Insight Jam Live. And so I'm Doug Shannon. I'm one of the top 25 leaders in the world at the moment for thought leadership around AI and generative AI and automation. So what we're going to do is, as the top of mind here, I'm going to give you kind of like the current and future state of enterprise generative AI, kind of where we're at, what Agentic is looking at, kind of where everything's kind of leading and heading. And so happy to be here with you, and feel free to check out my show on Insight AI with Insight Jam as well. So as we dive into it, looking at the current landscape, right? So the current landscape is what do we have? A lot of people out there that I talk to around the world are still seeing AI as chatbots. And as chatbots, it's an interesting dynamic because although we want to have these conversations with these large language models that are, talking to us and answering things for us and doing search for us, it is acting kind of like a chatbot, but it's really not a chatbot. And so you don't want to be stuck in thinking just as a chatbot. You want to think how other ways can we leverage this within different departments, different organizations, and different places in the business. And so when we look at those aspects, what we're really looking at is once you actually have AI and LLMs running in your systems and in your businesses and your enterprises, you're looking kind of at like cost overruns could happen. And what I mean by that is that this can happen where every month, even when you're not using the tools, that just by installing them, just by getting them ready and running, there is a cost associated with that because of the API cost, because of the other portion of costs I'll talk about here shortly. But the other thing to watch out for is your underutilization. So when you don't align on your goals ahead of time to say, hey, what do we want to do as an organization? What do we want to do as a company? Where's that pie in the sky? Where's that moonshot? Like, what is the goal that you're trying to either provide for your service, your product, or whatever you're trying to sell, whatever you're involved with, like what is that goal? And so when you look at cost overruns, you're looking really like at token costs. So LLMs have a very high rate of return of you ask it a question, you say, hey, how's it going today? Tell me what the seasons are. And it's going to go into a giant paragraphs of like what that means and what the context of trying to understand what even your question is. And so understand like token cost is a thing because when you have 30,000 or 80,000 employees, like that can go up very highly, very quick, especially 3 months down the road. If you don't know what you're leveraging or what you have your employees have the availability or ability to go into, you may find that you have a $30,000 bill at the end of 3 months. The underutilization, kind of what we're looking at is the infrastructure, right? So we're looking at, it takes time to build this infrastructure in place. It's not the same way that you expect it as a user. You can't just go to openai.com. You can't go to Claude. You can't go to all the different models that are out there and just say, I have a question. I want to search for a thing. So make sure you realize that there is infrastructure cost. There are costs around the data utilization of where you store that data, how you mine that data, how you vectorize them together, because you're kind of fold them together like a deck of cards. You kind of fold them in there and you get that vectorization to where you can actually ask it questions and very grounded questions off of the data that you've stored. So infrastructure costs money on building, takes time. It takes efforts to build the grounding efforts. It takes efforts to understand how to leverage those prompts accordingly so they do take less token cost. So little things to watch out for. The other aspect that we're going to get into is agentic automation. And overall, when you're looking at agentic, there's 5 different ways to define agentic. The thing I like to talk about is I'm very much not a researcher. I'm a practitioner in this. I've done automation for many years. And so when looking at agentic, it's interesting to see and to know that many organizations and C-suite individuals are saying AI is the way to go. Agentic is, part of that journey. And yes, agentic is the step in the right direction, although AI doesn't answer all questions. And really, automation should still be at the forefront of thought, because automation is going to give you your process discovery, your process understanding, how your organization works with processes. And it ultimately will actually feed your AI efforts. Once you have this automation built in, you can then actually drive that same automation effort, that same information you're pulling out of the things that you are now or the things that you're going to be pulling out, and then actually pushing that to AI, because AI is going to give you that leveraged understanding of what's next, right? So some of those things being like, autonomous execution, like how do you execute human things now? So when the human does a process, especially those very highly manual processes, how are you automating that now so you can build AI in the future? And what I mean by that is building in that intelligent decision layer. Like, so right now we have humans very much involved with what that looks like, how they, what A plus B equals C actually turns into. And then what you can do is you can actually build that intelligent decision making to where AI can actually answer some of those questions. So automation builds the overall process guidelines. Your AI actually gets embedded to actually answer some of those human questions that used to only be done by humans, but now has the ability with grounding to be answered by AI. And then you move into the real-time learning, right? So that's where you can leverage your lean aspects. You leverage the fact that you can actually train these AI models to do different things. You can build in some instruct models. You can bring in other new things, right? So once you learn how to leverage this, not only are you building automation, you're still running with that. Not only are you doing AI now, because that's where leadership wants to go and businesses want to be enabled, you're actually doing real-time learning because you're actually grounding on your own data, your own enterprise data, and then you're actually building that in to where you can leverage those same insights, those nuances. So now your people are highly enabled and become part of that journey. So what does that look like? So part of real-time learning and part of what we're going to see when we look at AI in general is right now, besides agentic, you're hearing about chain of thought. And chain of thought is understanding kind of like better prompting. So when I ask AI a question, it's going to try to provide some chain of thought around what am I asking it actually, and that is helping to answer kind of like that token issue and handle the automation side. And it's also answering that intelligent decision layer. But then where else are we going? It's not just chain of thought and agentic, and then boom, we have magical AI that does everything for us. We're in a step in the right direction, not the final destination. So what I'm seeing out there is next thing is like reasoning. This is where we're starting to build out that, intelligent automation, intelligent AI to where it's explainable AI. But how do we get to explainability? And so reasoning and the chain of reasoning is going to provide reasons around why did the AI do and say what it did? And what that's based off of is one of the last chains that I am thinking that we need in this world at this point is the chain of custody. So when asking AI and when looking at explainable AI, you want to know, I ask it a question, I'm providing a reason about why I'm asking this question. It's kind of more still chain of thought. It's going to go grab some items, some information, hopefully not some Wikipedia articles, but it's going to grab some grounded information within inside the organization, be it like holiday time or how many hours of PTO does someone get or earn or accrue over time. Now, as it provides that custody, then it knows what I asked, it knows the custody, and then it can build that reason. And so by building in those reasoning, now it can explain back to me, the person that asked the question in the first place, what did it do? And why did it do it? Because if we want to learn from AI, as it becomes smarter, as it drives forward, if we can't learn from it, then we're not enabling ourselves. We're not taking a very human-first approach. And human-first approach should be with any technology that is going to outpace or outdo humans, we should be able to learn from it. So we in turn can be better. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do with, especially with things like the autonomous enterprise. So where does it go from there? And so how do we get to things like the autonomous enterprise? Well, first it's moving away from just agentic, because we're taking that next step. So we said agentic, we're going to build it out because it's process oriented, it's task oriented. We can do a lot of stuff with it. But how? We have to get beyond tasks and processes. And so by building an automation, drive it to agentic, building out multi-agent frameworks. That is really kind of the goal here. And so with multi-agent frameworks, you have many agents doing different things. So you have your semantic future, you have your pragmatic future, you have your very inline, this is the way things work, and you have your, hey, pragmatic, I'm trying to understand what you're asking AI approach. But how do you do that? And so really you do it by understanding the ontology and the content and the domain of like where you're addressing, right? So ontology is essentially understanding the what, where, and why of your data, and really diving into not just like the front office where all the money gets made and everything, and you have that very defined, most companies do, but then you have the back office that is very undefined and is really what drives the business forward. But we don't always have all the information, right? So that unstructured data can now be leveraged. AI agents have the ability to sit with like specific groups if you want them to, and the HR groups or IT groups, and kind of watch what goes on to understand what processes are being leveraged, what is being done with inside this company, so that we can actually do more with less or do more impactfully. And the reasons why is because once you understand that unstructured data, you actually can do more with it versus the classic approach of you have this box of data that you see these vendors talk about, and they say, well, you have structured and unstructured, and then we go the structured path, and then just magic happens. That's been the history for the last like probably 40 something years. Now we actually have the ability to do this better. And so that's where we're going to leverage technology. So understanding that content, understanding the domain on the side of the pragmatic side, getting that ontology together, that's the future. And that's kind of what I'm trying to explain. So when you look at multi-agent frameworks, like that's the evolution of AI. That's where we're moving to, because you can't just have one agent doing a bunch of stuff. It's not going to work very fast. You need them to kind of work in concert with each other. You need them to serve different data points and really drive things forward. And so that's the goal. And that's the beginning of how you start to see that autonomous enterprise coming together, because it's not just about enabling the agents, it's about enabling your enterprise. So, and exactly, it's about creating systems that ask the right questions and empower humans and machines to find solutions together. So that's the goal. Now, how do we do that, right? So agents are going to be coming about and doing process discovery. And what process discovery is we all know it to be process mining and task mining together, but these agents are going to be watching that and then understanding what that means, and then building discovery around it and say, hey, did you know 5 people on this team do this same process 5 different ways? This the stuff we've been worrying about forever. So the next thing is something that's still new, but I want to make sure I bring it up here, and it's the fact that shadow AI is coming. It's basically over here because of a lot of the citizen development stuff that we're looking at, and a lot of the enterprises are currently looking at. So shadow IT was a thing, still is, and shadow AI is kind of coming in its place a little bit, because as we bring in AI functions and drive to allow people to do more or to do development with AI, well, who's storing the code? Like, where's that code base going? If I'm saying I want to create a game, I want to do a thing, and go develop it for me, and voila, I get this magical item at the end of it after like 30 seconds of work, great. Where's the code if I need to troubleshoot that? Where's the code if I need to tell people what was the solution I used? Did I just say, oh, AI did it? Like, no, we can't. Humans, we have to be responsible for the things that we're asking AI to do. AI is just a tool, and it's not the hammer's fault that we hit the wrong nail. It's not the hammer's fault that we stubbed our toe. It's the person using the tool. And so we have to be able to really show that auto control and show the wins of like why we did what we did. And so something to be aware of is shadow AI is going to be a thing, especially as we continue to see and leverage what areas can we actually really drive with these tools. The last thing is enterprise IP is key to any enterprise. AI, much like API leakage and API in general, you're on a meeting, you're talking to people, and you show your APIs, your keys to people on accident, or it happens, right? The same thing is happening with AI right now. There's many different ways of AI leakage. There's enterprise IP that gets out. We've seen some of the stories in the news. Understand that this is also part of why we want to leverage and are looking to leveraging like multi-agent frameworks, because keeping everything in one suite, keeping everything in one enterprise, not going out to a whole bunch of different things or a whole bunch of different agents that you don't own. Especially this comes into play when you have multi-agent frameworks. You actually can handle some of the nuances you see with like Salesforce doing enterprise agents. They're doing a great job doing that. However, you have Salesforce, you have ServiceNow, you have everybody that's out there going to have their own agent coming to you as an enterprise user and saying, use our agent. Well, what if you can build your own agent for your own people that then connect through APIs? And then now you don't have as much leakage because you can kind of control that a little bit more. There's things to think about, and that's where multi-agent frameworks come in. So moving on. Ideally, I want to leave some takeaways so that we can kind of like make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing and what people in the industry are seeing. So assess the value, like make sure you're going beyond the chatbots that we talked about, see the real wins, like understand the goals, understand where you're trying to go to. A lot of people are actually building this together with automation and AI teams. So you take your center of excellence or center of enablement that you use for automation for however long, or if you haven't, please build a team, and then use that same team to assess your AI aspects, because what's going to happen is you're then able to then leverage that automation and AI with each other to then build those audits. And if you don't have the infrastructure ready, automation already has audit controls, and you can still use that now and really drive to use prompts ahead of time to be cohesively work with AI, kind of like in a Gen 3 intelligent automation style. So you're using intelligent automation and AI together to really drive the prompts, drive the wins, and get those nuance factions there. So plan for scalability, exactly. Like you can plan ahead, you can scale very easily on the front end if you want to use automation to drive it, but then inside of your automation, if you're pulling down 10,000 something documents and you want to get those documents down, and then you want to then have your automation push that to a prompt-based LLM and have that LLM then do a summary of that, all that's available now. And there doesn't take much infrastructure to do. So there's quick ways to scale this, but having a team that's running that, seeing that, driving that is going to make it a lot easier for everyone else. So embrace the multi-agent frameworks. They're coming. There's a lot of companies out there that do this now. There's a lot of companies that are actually talking about the autonomous enterprise now. So definitely leverage them, take a look at it, get to know what everybody's really talking about. There are issues with agents now where you have agentic, and because agentic is kind of a hyped term, but although it's still a step in the right direction, you have people that are using it as wrappers and kind of giving you, oh, we can do agents, but do they do audit controls? Do they handle automations? Are they able to actually bridge the two gaps? Like if they are, fantastic. If they're not, ask some questions and be curious. So, and then empower your workforce, right? Leverage AI to support and not replace your talent. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But overall, like your talent and your employees are your best business partner. So, and the way that looks is like exactly that your employees are your first customers. You should always remember that, because it helps to understand that similar thing we learned in automation, right? Like your employees, your domain experts, your SMEs, like your subject matter experts are the key to understanding your own enterprise, your own processes. So definitely leverage them to learn it, to drive it, to build it. And the issue there is like you don't want to get rid of them, right? Because if you get rid of your main strengths, your main lessons learned, your employees that know what the heck's going on whatever process, then like that's why I say if you want ROI, which your leadership is automatically going to say, like we want AI because we want ROI. Fantastic. Okay, well, what's the fastest way to get ROI? Well, it's not firing people, as most people learned in their MBA, to get rid of people is the easiest way to win money. In this case, technology is not, I would say that's not the right way. So I would say it's not fire, it's just don't hire. But you're going to get more wins if you maintain your current workers than actually getting rid of people and then serving them up and saying, oh, let's go train the next batch of people or the next college hires or whatnot. They don't know your business. The people that are there now know your business. They know the culture. They know the people in it. And if you just go around getting rid of people, you're actually going to negate that culture, and you're going to whittle it away at the foundation that you built over the years, and that's just not a good idea. So get the wins, and get the wins by not hiring. If you do need to get rid of people, if that is your main focus, it's automatically going to happen. People leave jobs every 2 years. People have attrition. Things happen. It's going to happen, but don't go looking for it, is what I'm alluding to. So, and lastly, ontology. Ontology is going to be big. It's going to be big because we're actually gathering the understanding of that unstructured data. We're gathering the nuances and understanding of your business, and that's what you're going to want to do. This is how you don't become the next Kodak. This is where you say, hey, yeah, we know digital cameras are coming out, but all of our money's made on this, legacy film here. Is that going to stay, or is ease of use going to take over? Is it easier for people to take the picture, look at it, and go, oh man, I got the right picture? That's what people want. Knowing that and not having that enterprise internal data to actually leverage, and just waiting on that one individual, that one advisor to say, no, that's not the way, this is the way. You never know until you know, right? So more information is not worse. It just depends on where you get your information from, and why not get it from your own company. So one of the last things here, the journey towards autonomous enterprise is just the beginning. And I look forward to seeing how each and everybody is starting to shape that future, because it's coming, and it's going to be very interesting. So lastly, I wanted to thank everybody for being here at the Inside Jam Live, and feel free to connect with me and ask me any questions you want to on LinkedIn. I have a URL there, or you can use the QR code here and scan that and get a hold of me. If you need anything else, you can also check out our show on Inside Jam, on Inside AI on Inside Jam. So I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
For video highlights, replays, and more, visit InsightJam.com.